My fusion system, fusing 1,000 chickens at the start. Chapter 491, King Landhar III's Confession. Avril. Sylvan rushed forward. He was shocked that Avril's body had not rotted after more than 10 years. However, compared to his surprise, he felt a longing for her. Unfortunately, he had not even taken 2 steps when a powerful force blocked him. King Landhar III's body emitted a powerful aura of a peak diamond tier elite. He extended his right hand, but his palm was the size of a mountain, giving Sylvan a compelling pressure. Even his space was distorted, and the ground sank several meters. Gravity control. King Landhar III had used the technique that he learned from the past 7 gods, including the goddess of earth and fertility, Gaia. The 7 gods had not only taught him faith but had also given him a portion of their energy. That was also why he could become a peak diamond tier elite even though he did not cultivate. Unfortunately, the 7 gods had already broken off their connection with him. It would be difficult for him to improve in the future. However, a peak diamond tier elite was enough to suppress Sylvan. At that moment, Sylvan was only an ordinary diamond tier elite. He had consumed the dragon transformation potion in Mount Creation and turned into a sovereign tier dragon, and he had the strength to contend with a starlight tier existence. However, in front of King Landhar III, he was still a little weaker as he had not transformed into a dragon. King Landhar III, what are you doing? Sylvan's expression changed. I can feel the strong pressure under my feet as if it was going to press my body to the ground. Nothing. I don't want you to get too close to Avril's coffin. I've already set up a lot of magic barriers here. Even the crystal coffin is a diamond tier relic from some ancient ruins. It can barely protect Avril's body from decay. If you approach and destroy the crystal coffin and the magic barriers around it, I will kill you mercilessly. King Landhar III's voice was calm, but there was an unquestionable tone in his words. King Landhar III, what are you talking about? You don't believe me? Then I'll show you. King Landhar III waved his hand, and the crystal coffin immediately caved in. A huge pit appeared under the ground, and skeletal arms stretched out from within it. Then, the owners of those skeletal arms, zombies with tattered clothes and some parts of their flesh and blood, crawled out of the ground. Some of those zombies looked old, while others seemed quite fresh. Whatever kind of zombies they were, their bodies emitted a greenish-gray mist, and their turbid eyes contained no life other than a desire for flesh and blood. The moment those zombies appeared, Sylvan's face stiffened, and his face was covered in disbelief. King Landhar III, you planted so many zombies under Avril's coffin? What are you doing? In the past, a zombie crisis had erupted in the territory of a certain nobleman in the kingdom. At that time, the region had been infected by a strange virus, and the infected corpses would come back to life. They became monsters that only knew how to devour without thinking, and those bitten by such a monster would become the same horror. That virus had caused panic in the kingdom. Later, King Landhar III ordered the army to burn that nobleman's territory and everyone in it, so the spread of the virus was prevented. Sylvan knew about that matter because the main cause of the incident, Sven, was a servant on Mount Creation. Furthermore, he also knew that the matter was not as simple as it seemed. Are you surprised? Why don't I tell you what I did in the years after Avril's death? First, I purged the Demoness Church and sent troops to search for a large number of ancient ruins. My men had explored most of the ruins in the kingdom. Finally, I combined some of the Demoness Church's methods to create a crystal coffin that could protect Avril's body from decay. I've also been sending people to research ways to resurrect Avril. I've searched almost all the ruins in the kingdom when the Dragon Spine Snow Mountain collapsed. That was the fault of one of the researchers I sent, Moriarty. On the one hand, I wanted to collapse the Dragon Spine Snow Mountain and use the Winter Nation to pressure you. On the other hand, I also wanted to use the magical beasts on the Dragonspine Snow Mountain to develop a power that could resurrect people. Unfortunately, that research failed, just like the zombie virus that I spread in the nobleman's territory. King Landhar's expression was calm as he spoke as if he was talking about someone else. You're saying that all your efforts have been to resurrect Avril. King Landhar III, you're lying, right? Sylvan's voice trembled. I saw Avril die in your arms. I also saw you send troops to exterminate the Demoness Church without even burying Avril's corpse. Now you're telling me that your goal is to resurrect Avril. That was ridiculous. He hated King Landhar because the man had killed Avril to fight for the throne. After that, he even sent people to spread the word that Avril was a woman with a dark heart. He took the opportunity to exterminate the Demoness Church. Such a person had kept Avril's body and wanted to resurrect her? Was he putting on a show? No matter how scheming a person was, there was no need to persist 10 years for a show. Furthermore, King Landhar III did not even let anyone know about it. What kind of show was that if no one knew about it? At that moment, Sylvan finally understood him. If King Landhar III did not let Avril down and did everything he could for her, then what reason did he have to hate him? Sylvan, it's okay if you don't believe me. But now that you've seen this, I hope you can help me. No matter what methods I used, I could not bring Avril back to life. But now, I see hope, and that hope is in Watson. He has the skills to confuse things and make them stronger. It's obviously the key to bringing Avril back to life. I had planned to resurrect Avril when I take over Watson's body and write a mandate to let Watson become the king. That way, I can continue living with Avril, and the time will return to more than 10 years ago. What a pity! Amidst the roars of the zombies, King Landhar's eyes never left the woman in the coffin. He looked nostalgic. You killed your 2 sons for that reason. Sylvan gulped. I never treated them as my sons. I don't even have any feelings for Isabella. I only love one person in my life. If you don't believe me, I can kill her now. That way, you can trust me. King Landhar III looked away from the woman in the coffin. His eyes were full of darkness. His words were firm and without a trace of humanity. Chapter 492, I agree. King Landhar III, you are truly a terrifying monster. Even if you are doing this for Avril, how can you kill your lover and children who have accompanied you all these years? Sylvan's expression when he looked at King Landhar III changed, becoming conflicted. I told you, I did that willingly. King Landhar's expression was still cold. So, Sylvan, are you going to help me? You should have the same thoughts as me regarding Avril's resurrection, right? I'm sorry, I still can't believe what you said unless you can prove it to me. Sylvan's gaze wavered for a moment, but it quickly became firm. He had prepared for more than 10 years to take revenge on King Landhar III. Now that he finally stood in front of the monarch, he would not waver just because of a few words. After a few seconds of silence, King Landhar III nodded. Okay, I got it. As he spoke, he clapped his hands, and a few black shadows immediately appeared around him. They came before him and transformed into women dressed as maids, bowing respectfully. Your Majesty. On the surface, they were maids, but they were actually assassins that King Landhar III had trained to be by his side. Get Isabella here. Summon the third prince and Kiana here as well. Yes, Your Majesty. The maids quickly turned into streaks of light and left. After a while, Isabella and Kiana arrived at the depths of the garden. Your Majesty, you've never allowed us to enter this garden. You've always treated it as a restricted area. Why do you summon us here now? Also, regarding the deaths of our 2 sons, I feel that it has something to do with Watson. Please tell me the truth. This is not a request from the Queen but a mother. After Isabella reached the depths of the garden, she made a request to King Landhar III. Then, her gaze fell on the roaring zombies in the garden, as well as the huge coffin in the middle and the woman inside. Her expression froze. That is. Isabella, just as you thought, the person in the coffin is my former lover, the late Queen Avril. Didn't you want to know the truth? I'll tell you now. I've never loved you. You and your children are only my pawns. Now that I've found a way to resurrect Avril, I have no more use for you. You can be the nutrients to nourish Avril's body. Your Majesty, is this a joke? I must have heard it wrongly. Isabella's face was pale as she took 2 steps backward. King Landhar III turned around and spoke to the third prince. I planned for the battle in the sky. I wanted to occupy Watson's body. He is the key to resurrecting Avril. Furthermore, my body is too old, and Avril's body remains the same. I needed a younger body. So, I killed 2 of my sons. You must have been shocked when I told you to look for treasures. I was delighted with what you had presented, so why did I dismiss you? I only needed 2 incompetent princes to sacrifice them to the gods. You did a good job, so I let you go. Father, please don't say any more. The third prince covered his ears and shook his head. He did not dare listen any more. I have already told you the truth. I believe you have no complaints even if you were to die here today. King Landhar III finally looked at Kiana and used the gentlest tone to say the most ruthless words. Kiana, my daughter, I have always doted on you. I have fulfilled all your requests since you were young. Now it's your turn to help me. Die for me, okay. Do it. King Landhar III waved his hand. The maids immediately turned into black shadows and appeared behind Isabella and her 2 children. Their daggers reflected a cold light and slashed at their throats. Desperation appeared in their eyes as they were about to die. They could no longer make any sounds. The daggers had touched their skin, cutting through their capillaries and allowing their blood to seep out. At that moment, a spark appeared in the air and rapidly grew, turning into a small blazing sun. The light engulfed the assassins' daggers and melted them into boiling liquid. The assassins retreated because of the heat. Roar! 2 enormous translucent wings spread out on Sylvan's back. The wings flickered with colors. Colorful pollen flew by with the wind as the wings flapped gently, landing on Isabella's and the children's necks. The pollen fused into the wound, instantly healing them. King Landhar III, enough. You're too wicked. Sylvan, didn't you want me to prove it to you? I'm trying to do that. Why are you blaming me? King Landhar III seemed puzzled. I understand what you're thinking, but these people are innocent. Let them go. Sylvan glanced at Isabella and the children. He did not have a good impression of that queen. After all, that woman had replaced Avril. However, he pitied her. That won't do, Sylvan. They've already known my secret. I won't give them a chance to leak it to anyone. King Landhar III raised his right hand, and a giant black ball appeared. It emitted a constant gravitational force as if it was about to land before Isabella and the other 2. At that moment, the dragon wings on Sylvan's back flapped slightly, and he instantly appeared in front of King Landhar III. I've said enough. As his voice fell, everything around him changed. The flower bed on the ground extended infinitely, and clusters of blooming pansies appeared. The zombies disappeared, and so did Isabella and the palace. In the endless sea of flowers, Avril, wearing a long golden dress, was not lying in a coffin but sitting in the flower bed. She hugged her knees and looked at Sylvan and King Landhar III. The Kingdom of Illusion. That was the Starlight Tear ability that Sylvan had mastered after he became a Dream Elven Dragon. He could forcefully pull others into the illusion that he had created. Avril. As he turned his head to look at Avril, who was sitting in the flower bed and brushing her hair that the wind caressed, the black ball in King Landhar III's hand dissipated. A thought appeared in his eyes. Friar, Brother Sylvan, you 2 are idiots. Instead of appreciating the flowers, you are fighting. What if you hurt these flowers because of that? King Landhar III opened his mouth, subconsciously wanting to admit his mistake. Suddenly, he turned around to see a younger Sylvan in illusion. Sylvan, do you think this is enough to trick me? Friar, I don't mean to belittle you. I just needed a moment to protect the Empress and the two children. There is another reason I dragged you here. Now that there are only the two of us here, we can have a good chat. Regarding the matter that you suggested, I agree to help you. Chapter 493, The Queen's Resurrection. Oh! King Landhar III was stunned as if Sylvan's words had exceeded his expectations. I didn't expect you to agree to my request. It seems like bringing you here to see Avril's corpse was the right thing to do. Friar, don't celebrate too early. Sylvan's expression seemed conflicted. Even though I agreed to your request, I have conditions. You must plot against Watson. I will tell him about what happened here and let him think of a way to resurrect Avril. I believe that there must be a way to do it with Watson's skills. Also, you can't hurt the Queen. Don't be silly, Sylvan. Do you think that Watson will help us after discovering that? King Landhar III smiled and said, Avril is my weakness. He might use that as an excuse to threaten me. If he keeps finding excuses not to resurrect Avril, I will continue to live under his control. How is that better? Watson is not that kind of person. Even if he is not that kind of person, do you guarantee that he won't do such a thing? The smile on King Landhar III's face grew wider. Now, Watson has found another one of my weaknesses. My goal is clear. I only want to resurrect Avril. I can give up on other people and things. I know very well that the more things you want, the more unreliable you'll be. Even a king like me would have to work hard for my goal. It's fine to give up everything for one goal. Sylvan, you should think so too, right? Sylvan hesitated. If he had not been blinded by hatred for the past 10 years, he might have agreed to King Landhar III's request without hesitation. After hearing King Landhar III's words, the first thing that came to his mind was his happy life on Mount Creation. He had friends there too. Sylvan, what is there for you to think about? If you ask Watson, he might not agree to your request in order to control me and the Holy Dragon Kingdom. One side has risks, while the other side does not. The choice should be obvious. Come, Sylvan, go with my plan to resurrect Avril for a better and more beautiful future. King Landhar III extended his right hand to Sylvan, his face full of hope. Sylvan did not take his hand. Instead, he sighed and dispelled the illusion that he and King Landhar III were in. Friar, I will consider your request carefully. I will give you an answer soon. Very well, then I will wait for your reply. A hint of disappointment could be seen in King Landhar III's eyes. Then, he hid his expression and turned to look at Isabella and his two children. They had not left. You should thank the border count for his graciousness. If it weren't for him, you would be dead now. I will not move against you again. However, I do not wish you to tell anyone about what happened here. Take them back to the palace. Do not allow them to leave the palace for the time being. Yes, Your Majesty. The maids immediately took Isabella and the other two and led them toward the palace. The third prince's expression collapsed. Kiana remained silent, but Isabella kept turning around. Her eyes were filled with grief, and anyone who saw her would feel pity for her. Sylvan could not bear to look away. Sylvan, I'm going to meet the researchers and tell them that they can lighten their workload for now. They have put in a lot of effort to keep Avril's body from decaying. Do you want to meet them? No. I just remembered that I have some things to take care of. I'll leave now. Sylvan shook his head. After bidding farewell to King Landhar III, he left the palace. King Landhar III stood where he was and did not leave. Instead, he narrowed his eyes and said, although he did not betray Watson just now, it's evident that he has wavered. There are still many more opportunities. We can take it slow. There's no need to rush. Soon, Sylvan will know where the powerful fusion power is coming from. It will be more useful to him. King Landhar III waved his hand, and the zombies immediately retreated into the ground. The crystal coffin and Avril's body were reburied under the flowers. The reason Avril's body could remain decay-free had a lot to do with those zombies. Although his previous experiment to resurrect the dead had failed, the zombie virus he obtained was not useless. Extracting the virus from the zombies and using the natural power of the flowers to purify the poison would weaken its effect, but it was still possible to keep corpses from rotting. You've been listening to us for a long time. It's time for you to come out, King Landhar III said to an empty place as soon as the ground returned to normal. Friar, you're still as shrewd as ever. I thought I had hidden myself well. I did not expect you to still find me. The air in the empty place squirmed following the voice, and an old man walked out. If Watson were there, he would be surprised to see the old king. Obviously, Sylvan did not realize he was there. That is inevitable. After all, I can smell the primordial demonous stench on your body from afar. Don't you agree, father? King Landhar III and the old man looked at each other, and the two of them laughed simultaneously. Watson had left a fake figure of you in the prison cell in an attempt to confuse me. He probably did not know that I had already seen through it. On the surface, my plan had failed at that time. Now, it's time to carry out my real plan. After leaving the palace, Sylvan used a teleportation spell to arrive at the Sword Saint's courtyard and found Watson. At that moment, Watson was sitting on a bench in the courtyard. He was watching Antonio and Reed fight over the fusion thread of the dual god that he had just fused. It was a powerful artifact obtained by fusing two Starlight tier weapons, and that weapon was even more powerful than the 3-peak Starlight tier weapons that Watson carried on him. That made Reed and Antonio fight over it. Reed, Watson said that the weapon could connect others and allow them to obtain the ability of a crown mage. That is a true boon for mages. You are a swordsman, not a mage. Why are you fighting with me over this tool? Antonio, that's not true. The weapon is called the fusion thread. It's similar to the name of my weapon. Even the shape is very similar. It's obviously more convenient for me to use it. You should ask Watson to make a new weapon for you. They were fighting in midair when they saw Sylvan descending from the sky. Sylvan, you're back. Then, the two of them began to quarrel again. Sylvan was obviously used to that scene. After he greeted them, he came to Watson and said, Watson, come with me to the palace later. There's something I need your help with. What is it? Watson asked curiously. I hope you can help me resurrect my sister, the former queen of the Holy Dragon Kingdom, Avril. Can you do that? The surroundings instantly quieted down. Even Antonio and Reed stopped quarreling and looked at him with serious expressions. Chapter 494, Everyone knew about it. Senior brother Sylvan, the matter of reviving the queen. Watson looked troubled. Just as Sylvan looked a little nervous, he nodded. Leave it to me. There's no problem with that. Phew. Sylvan let out a long breath and felt relieved. There's no time to lose. Let's set off now. King Landhar III's words to him in the palace echoed in his mind. He had been worried that Watson would do what King Landhar III had said to control the kingdom and King Landhar III. It seemed like he had thought too much about it. Watson was not that kind of person. Watson was about to leave with Sylvan when Antonio and Reed stopped arguing and walked toward them. Watson, wait a moment. How can you agree to such a huge matter like resurrecting the late queen so hastily? And Sylvan, didn't I ask you to keep an eye on King Landhar III? Why did you run out of the palace and ask Watson to resurrect the queen in such a hurry? What happened? Sylvan hesitated for a moment before recounting what King Landhar III had said to him in the palace. Of course, he hid the other party's intention. King Landhar III's purpose in doing all that is to resurrect the former Queen Avril? That does explain a lot about some things that I can't figure out. But why do I feel that the matter is a bit odd? Antonio narrowed his eyes. I also feel that that matter is not quite right. Let's not discuss whether a cruel and indifferent king would be interested in a woman. Why did he wait until now when he learned about Watson's ability to resurrect the late queen? Perhaps he has some ulterior motive for resurrecting her. As he spoke, Reed noticed something not quite right with Sylvan's expression. He said, "Sylvan, I'm not saying that you can't resurrect Avril. I just hope that you won't be tricked by King Landhar III. Resurrecting my sister has always been my long-cherished wish. Furthermore, I don't think King Landhar III can do anything to her. Even though my sister is the queen and the previous Demoness Church's leader, she is not that strong. She barely had the strength to fight against a platinum-tier elite by relying on a platinum-tier item, the Great Sin Mask. Her strength is nothing to Watson." As Sylvan spoke, he knelt on one knee toward Watson and lowered his head. "Watson, please, as long as you agree to my request, I will do anything for you." As the Border Count, he was a well-known figure in the border. He had always held a high position and cultivated his dignity, so he would not show weakness even when facing King Landhar III. However, he was close to begging Watson. "Senior brother Sylvan, you don't have to do that. You've contributed a lot to the construction of Mount Creation. You've also taught me a lot of things in the mountains. If you want to resurrect Queen Avril, I'll help you achieve it." Watson smiled and helped Sylvan up. It was his wish to make his family and friends happy. After living together at the border for 2 years, he had long regarded Sylvan as a member of his family, and it was normal for him to fulfill his family's request. Watson Reed frowned slightly and wanted to say something. Before he could say anything, another voice came from outside. "I agree with you about resurrecting Queen Avril." The person who spoke was Denise. She walked into the room with Nightingale. A shy-looking teenager with grey mousy ears on his head stood behind them. After entering the courtyard, she came to Watson. She bowed her head and said, "Master Watson, I hope you can fulfill my and Lord Sylvan's wishes." "Nightingale, Denise, why are you here? Even Little Grey is here." Watson looked surprised. Denise said, "There was a fierce battle in the sky just now. Nightingale was worried about your safety and insisted on coming over here to take a look. She had wanted to go to the sky to help you at the beginning of the battle. I was the one who stopped her, and she almost cried because of it." "Sister Denise, don't talk nonsense. Why would I cry?" Nightingale's face flushed red as she waved her hand to defend herself. "So it's true that you're worried about young Master Watson?" Denise's teasing words made Nightingale's face redder. They had seen the battle in the sky from their manor in the royal city. Both of them had been informed that it was part of Watson's plan, but Nightingale wanted to help when she realized that Watson had been in danger. Fortunately, Denise had managed to stop her. Since the matter was settled, Nightingale wanted to see Watson, so Denise brought her there. Unexpectedly, she overheard the conversation between Watson and Sylvan. Denise had a different reason for wanting that. As Avril's former guard, she had always thought of delivering Avril's last wish, even when she was in the Demoness bandit gang. That was her wish until she had a better choice. It seemed like she could see Avril again. It sounded like a fantasy, but it was Watson he could do it. Furthermore, she had heard Watson's agreement. "If you can resurrect Avril, young Master Watson, I will persuade her to join Mount Creation and become your helper. The era of the Kingdom's 7 gods has passed. Now is the time for young Master Watson to become a god." Queen Avril used to be the Demoness Church's leader, so she is very familiar with the management of a church. Furthermore, after she is resurrected, she can help suppress King Landhar III's feelings if his feelings for her have not changed. It was true that Denise missed Avril, but she had become a part of Mount Creation during her stay there. She was speaking from Watson's standpoint. "Let's go." Watson nodded and did not say anything. He turned around and walked out of the room. "Let's go resurrect the Queen." Whoosh! A huge teleportation array appeared under Watson and the others. It brought them out of the Sword Saint's courtyard and into the palace. Who broke into the palace? The light of the magical array had just disappeared when a group of soldiers rushed out with long spears and surrounded Watson and the others. When they saw the figures in the light, they were stunned. It's Lord Sylvan and the strongest genius of the kingdom, Watson. Even Antonio and Master Reed are here. Oh, my! So many important figures are at the palace together. Did something big happen? As the guards cried out in surprise, Watson waved at them. Go and inform King Landhar III that we're here. Tell him to wait for us at the former Queen Avril's tomb. We are going to resurrect the late queen. Revive the late queen? The guards looked at each other, clearly in a daze. One of the bright ones reacted and hurriedly ran into the palace. The guards began to discuss the matter. The news about the kingdom's strongest genius reviving the late queen swept through the entire palace instantly. Chapter 495, The King of Zombies. Hey, did you hear that? The kingdom's strongest genius, Watson, brought the astrologer, the sword saint, and the border count to the palace to resurrect the late queen. I heard about it, but I also heard that the former queen did not die. During the Demoness Church's incident, she was severely injured and imprisoned by His Majesty. But the former queen was the Demoness Church's saintess, didn't she do many evil deeds? Why would she be resurrected? Is it because we lost the protection from the seven gods, and now we need the saintess' protection? That would be too terrible. Shut up. That is the royal family's matter. You shouldn't discuss it too openly. You are too bold. A storm was quickly stirred in the royal palace due to Watson's arrival. The former queen's name, Avril, had always been taboo in the royal palace because of her evil deeds. She had controlled the Demoness Church to bewitch the people and even threatened the royal family's safety. That was why the king killed her. There was no funeral for her. There were even rumors that Avril would kill her maids if she were not happy. She would even kill some small animals for experiments. Many people in the palace were worried about her resurrection. Sylvan, you brought Watson to the palace so soon after you left. I said that I had a way to resurrect Avril. Do you not trust me? As the rumors spread in the palace, King Landhar III brought Queen Isabella to the palace gate to welcome Watson and the others. He said it with a sour expression. Even Isabella's eyes were also red as if she had just cried. Her eyes were filled with hatred as she looked at Watson. Friar, cut the crap. Take us to the place where my sister is buried. Watson has already promised to help me resurrect her. I believe in him, so I don't need you. He turned his head away from King Landhar III. King Landhar III snorted coldly. There are quite many people here. Well, since Watson is confident in resurrecting Avril, I'll take you there. The king led Watson and the others through the many gardens in the palace. They came to the deepest part of the garden, where a large area of pansies bloomed. King Landhar III clapped his hands, the ground split open, and zombies crawled out from under the ground one after another. Their bodies were covered in rotten blood and flesh, and they let out hollow roars. The sight of their mangled bodies made everyone feel nauseous. Isabella even retched twice, her face was pale. Watson's face was also pale. Some of those zombies seemed to have just died, and there were thousands of them. It was not easy to find so many fresh corpses in the capital during peacetime, but it was not hard to imagine what King Landhar III had done to get them. A cold light flashed in his eyes. He saw a transparent crystal coffin rising from the ground, surrounded by zombies. Inside the coffin lay a platinum-haired elven girl with translucent skin. She seemed to be sleeping soundly. Watson, do you need me for anything when you resurrect later? No matter what you need, just tell me. I'll do my best to help you. Sylvan clenched his fists as he looked at the girl in the coffin. He had spoken with a pained expression. I don't need help. Resurrecting a person is quite easy for me. Watson smiled. He extended his hand toward Avril, who was in the coffin. Fusion system, activate. What did Watson say just now? Is resurrecting a person so easy? Whispers could be faintly heard from the surroundings. There was not only King Landhar III but also the guards responsible for guarding the place. Initially, the guards were not allowed to enter that place. Still, after Watson publicly announced that he would resurrect Avril, everyone in the palace knew that she was buried in the garden. That secret could no longer be hidden, so King Landhar III did not bother to do that anymore. The guards did not believe Watson's words because no one had even resurrected the dead before. No matter how strong a person was, they would not survive the baptism of time unless they consumed water from the spring of life like Antonio did. However, even Antonio was gradually aging, he was no longer as young as he was. Resurrection that had always been a forbidden area of magic. Only necromancers who studied the dead souls and corpses knew about it. However, the way necromancers controlled corpses could not be called resurrection. Watson was the strongest genius in the kingdom, but talent and power did not mean that he could touch the forbidden area of life. Under the doubtful gazes of the crowd, Watson's voice fell, and the roaring zombies turned into rays of light and intertwined with each other. The corpses turned into a short figure. Other than her skin color, which was close to cyan, she looked exactly like a human. There was a magic circle on her face, and her eyes were red. She seemed very magical. What's going on? Is Queen Avril really resurrected? No, that's not the queen. What is that? Everyone was confused as they watched the green-skinned young girl in front of Watson. Even King Landhar's eyes flickered. Avril was still in the crystal coffin with her eyes closed. On the contrary, the thousands of zombies around her had disappeared. Watson had resurrected a single person. Congratulations, Master, for successfully fusing thousands of low-tier zombies. You have obtained a platinum-tier creature, the King of Zombies. Platinum-level creature, King of Zombies. Abilities: Fatal Infection, able to spread toxins through the blood and infect others into zombies. Zombie Control, able to control all zombies and master the ability to control zombies. Death Plague, able to spread a wide range of colorless and odorless toxins. Immortal Body, able to heal even if the body is cut into pieces. Pain Loss, Super Physical Immunity, Super Magic Immunity. Additional ability: Unstable Evolution, temporarily increases the amount of poison in the body, significantly strengthening the body's size and ability. Obtaining random ability. Watson looked at the zombie girl in front of him and nodded in satisfaction. Not bad. Those thousands of corpses are better off becoming my power than living as zombies. When he saw those zombies, he could feel the pain from the remaining consciousness of those zombies. His fusion system was just enough to help them escape, and as the pain dissipated, it was replaced by gratitude. After appreciating his own work and feeling the strange gazes from all directions, Watson looked around and scratched his head. Why are you all looking at me like that? Watson, what are you doing? Is that what you meant by resurrecting Avril? King Landhar's tone was terse, and his tone was filled with apparent dissatisfaction. I'm just cleaning up the zombies around us. Don't worry. Watson, whatever happens to those zombies, hurry up. They were speechless. They brought Watson there to resurrect Avril, not to deal with the zombies. Yes, I will start the process now. Watson's expression became serious. He extended his right hand toward the crystal coffin where Avril was lying again. Fusion System, activate. Chapter 496, Success and Verification. Following Walter's voice, the crystal coffin immediately turned into a stream of light and fused with the surrounding land, turning into an even larger coffin that was shimmering with starlight. Avril's body was immediately exposed in the coffin following the fusion, and huge magic crystals were pulled from the surrounding land. Those magic crystals were engraved with magic arrays, emitting extraordinary fluctuations. Those magic crystals were used to provide safety for the land. Every piece of magic crystal was at least platinum tier. Some of them even emitted diamond tier fluctuations. Those magic crystals were all fused with the crystal coffin. The original Holy Relic crystal coffin was instantly upgraded to Starlight tier. Starlight tier item, the glass coffin that seals the sky. Ability, Absolute Seal, can seal everything, absolute eternity, anything inside the coffin is eternal, absolute defense, can't be opened from the inside or the outside. Additional effects, the sealed divine kingdom, the opening of the gate of hell, which can connect to hell and release creatures from hell. During the fusion process, Watson had only fused the crystal coffin with treasures that King Landhar III had placed there. He still had not done anything to Avril's corpse. Everyone there could understand that. If they wanted to resurrect Avril, they had to get Avril out of the coffin. Just as they thought about that, Watson waved his hand and summoned the fused starlight tear glass coffin before him. He asked the new king of the zombies to protect the glass coffin. Then, he pointed at his chest with his right hand, and a starlit chess piece appeared. The moment the chess piece appeared, green life energy that was full of vitality appeared on Watson's body. Then, he waved his fist, and the life energy poured into the starlight, and a woman's silhouette appeared immediately. Human creation, activate. The human chess piece could create humans. The newly created human would conform to Watson's standards. At that moment, he had made a human based on Avril's appearance. The new human looked like Avril and had her personality and memories from when she was alive due to the human chess piece's ability. The light subsided, and the newly created Avril stood in front of Watson. She opened her eyes slowly. They were beautiful and purple. Her long platinum hair fluttered, and her long dress was made of emerald green life energy. Where am I? Avril's eyes seemed confused. She looked around her, and her voice was pleasant, like a nightingale singing. The late queen has been resurrected. There was a wave of exclamations from all around the garden. Many guards looked at Avril in disbelief. Some of them had strange expressions on their faces. That's not a complete resurrection. It was not strange for them to have such doubts because Avril's body was still lying on the ground. Watson had only created another Avril. That method was not a resurrection, it should be called creation. The guards were not the only ones who felt that way. Antonio and Reed's mouths were twitching. They did not know what to say. It turned out that what Watson meant by resurrection was to create Avril out of thin air. It would be great if he could use that ability right from the start. He had fused zombies and glass coffins. It had nothing to do with the resurrection. If they were the deceased's family members, they would have been anxious to fight Watson. Sister. You're my sister, right? Fortunately, Sylvan did not care about that. After seeing Avril, all his thoughts were long forgotten. All he could think about was his sister. Brother? What are you talking about? I'm Avril. Don't you recognize me? Why do you look so different? You look so mature. Avril turned her head. She seemed puzzled when she saw Sylvan, and her long eyelashes fluttered. Tears welled in Sylvan's eyes. He could not help but walk toward Avril and hug her. After Avril spoke, he was sure that the girl in front of him was Avril. Even though he did not know what Watson did, he had seen many magical aspects of Watson. He did not doubt the young man. Just as he was about to walk toward Avril, he opened his arms. At that moment, King Landhar III suddenly reached out and stopped him. Wait a minute, Sylvan. It's hard to say if the person in front of me is Avril. Friar, what are you doing? Sylvan turned toward the king with reddened eyes. I'm her brother. Wouldn't I know if she is Avril? Just to be safe, I have to test it out. Not swayed by Sylvan's words, King Landhar III turned to look at Avril, and the woman also tilted her head to look at him. Are you Friar? Why have you become so mature? I remember that I was dead. Are you also dead? Is this hell? Her words moved King Landhar III, but he quickly took a deep breath to compose his expression. Avril, I need to ask you some questions. You need to answer truthfully. Friar, why are you speaking in such a strange tone? Why do you speak so formally? You said that you were forced to become king. In fact, you hate everything that your father and your brothers and sisters have done. Avril was complaining when she was interrupted by King Landhar III. You don't have to say anything. I just need you to answer one question. Do you know how you died? How I died? Avril frowned and shook her head as if she had a headache. You killed me. No, I was injured while protecting you. I begged you to kill me, but you disagreed. In order not to drag you down, I chose to commit suicide. Before I committed suicide, I even sent people to spread rumors in the kingdom, portraying me as an evil person. That way, it won't affect you in any way. Avril, so the rumors that circulated in the kingdom back then weren't spread by King Landhar III, but by your orders? Sylvan asked, surprised. Avril nodded and looked at King Landhar III with eyes filled with love. That's right. I remember everything. I was the one who wanted to do that. The Demoness Church was labeled as evil by King Landhar II. I was also regarded as a demoness who had bewitched the royal family. King Landhar II's men severely injured me. Friar saved me and even led an army to surround the royal palace for me. Unfortunately, I knew that I would not be able to live for long. Instead of letting Friar lose his mind for me, it was better for me to do something useful. I used King Landhar II's words to expand the rumors. Then, I stabbed a dagger into my chest. I was dead. What is happening now? She looked around her. She thought that her brother and lover had died to accompany her. However, she saw many people she did not know, which made her doubt her assumption. Friar, only you and my sister know about that, right? What else do you have to say? King Landhar III could not help but look at Sylvan. King Landhar III was silent for a moment before he sighed. Yes, only Avril and I knew about that. There is no doubt that this person is Avril. Watson, I am perplexed about how you did it. Avril's corpse is still there. How did you resurrect a new Avril? Chapter 497, Backstab. It has something to do with the human chess piece that I have mastered. Watson pointed at the chess piece floating in front of his chest, emitting starlight. The human chess piece can control the fate of a race. Not only that, but it can also create humans, just like what I just did. He had only revealed the most basic information to King Landhar III regarding the human chess piece. He wanted to hide the fact that the human chess piece was a sovereignty tool and possessed the ability to accelerate molecules, which was a power of the laws of motion. To be able to create a human, isn't that too astonishing? Can he create any human? If that's the case, doesn't it mean that he can create an army of elites at any time? Antonio and Reed looked at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. They had witnessed Watson's rise with their own eyes. When Watson reached the capital, he was still a young disciple they had to take care of. However, Watson's power had reached a level that they could not understand. Watson, you said that you created Avril. Then what's the difference between her and my original sister? Sylvan asked curiously. There's no difference. The human race was originally created by the game of chess. The human race is made up of energy factors that contain the characteristics of human chess. The so-called physical body, mind, and even soul are all the same. The death of a human represents the dissipation of energy factors. What I'm doing now is just reassembling the energy factors. Watson explained as he looked around. I don't know if you can understand what I said. Antonio and Reed nodded, looking thoughtful. As Diamond Tier elites, they could understand Watson's explanation. They had an understanding of the world. The more profound the understanding, the stronger the strength of the elite. Without realizing it, Watson had already walked in front of them. King Landhar III also looked as if he understood it. Then, he looked at Avril's body on the ground. Without the protection of the crystal coffin, Avril's body was decaying at a rapid speed, turning into sparkling ashes, and finally, with a gentle breeze, her body had disappeared. Avril was already dead. Her soul and body had turned into energy particles and dissipated. What remained was just an empty shell. Then, Watson had used the human chest to reconstruct Avril's body. It was equivalent to gathering the energy particles in Avril's body once again. It was precisely because King Landhar III had the strength of a peak diamond tier elite that he could understand that Watson's actions were the true act of resurrection. That made him feel a little sad. I thought that you would use the fusion power to let Avril fuse with something and then make her stand up. It seems that I have underestimated you. Fusing with other things might bring Avril back to life, but she won't be purely Avril anymore. It is not as good as this method. I have been racking my brain for more than 10 years to think of a way to bring Avril back to life. Because of that, I have made a lot of mistakes. I did not expect it to be so simple. Then, what is the meaning of what I have done all these years? The corner of King Landhar III's mouth twitched as he forced a bitter smile. As the king, he had indulged in more than 10 years of planning and experiments, but it was not as good as Watson waving his hand. As expected, any tricks and plots were useless in the face of absolute power. Also, he feared that Watson no longer looked at things from a superficial point of view. Instead, he looked at things from the level of energy factors. He had only seen such an angle in gods. Since Queen Avril has been resurrected and my mission is completed, I'll go back now. Watson crossed his arms behind his head and prepared to step back. It might seem like he had resurrected Avril for free when in fact, he had gained a lot of benefits. His rewards were the king of the zombies and the glass coffin that sealed the sky that he had obtained through the fusion system. Resurrecting a woman who was not even platinum tier did not consume much of his strength. However, he had obtained a platinum tier pet and a starlight tier item. It was profit for him. With that thought in mind, Watson was about to turn around when a cold blade suddenly stabbed his vital point. Watson realized that Isabella had appeared behind him without him noticing it. She was holding a sharp dagger that was emitting platinum tier light. If that dagger pierced through his chest and killed him on the spot, it would be a pity. His clothes were not made of ordinary cloth but platinum tier fabrics from Mount Creation. As a result, the dagger did not even pierce through his clothes. Even if his clothes were pierced, he had the strength of a peak diamond tier elite. An ordinary person would not be able to injure him. Even if he stood still, attacks from those below the starlight tier would not be able to harm him. Isabella's hand trembled slightly, and her expression was flustered. What? This is the sharpest platinum tier weapon in the capital. Why won't it pierce through your clothes? Your Majesty, what are you doing? Watson narrowed his eyes, and a cold light flashed through them. That was the difference in tiers. An elite like King Landhar III could understand that such an ordinary attack would be useless against him, so King Landhar III had joined forces with the gods to plot against him. While Queen Isabella was not even platinum tier, in her eyes, diamond tier elites were the same as gold and silver tier elites. As long as she attacked their vital points, she could kill them. However, she was wrong. Watson was not afraid of Isabella attacking him. However, she was hostile toward him. She might attack his family and friends. So, he had to clarify things with her if he did not want that to happen. He could even kill her if he so desired. Watson, I did not expect this. It's my fault for not being able to kill you. Kill me, then. You've killed my 2 sons, and I don't want to live anymore. Otherwise, if I don't kill you today, I will find a way to kill you in the future. Isabella's eyes were red as she spoke fiercely. Kill your sons? Your Majesty, you seem to have made a mistake. King Landhar III was the one who killed your sons. It has nothing to do with me. Isabella, what happened to you? Didn't I tell you that I was the one who killed them? Why did you attack Watson? King Landhar III frowned, his eyes flashing with a cold light. Watson must have threatened you, Your Majesty. He must have used Avril's resurrection to make you compromise. Isabella gritted her teeth, she gave Avril a fierce look, her eyes full of sorrow and determination. So what if that lowly woman is dead? Why would she come back to life? She's already dead, yet she still wants to fight with me for you, your majesty. I'll fight her today. If I can't kill Watson, then I shall kill her. As she spoke, Isabella rushed toward Avril. Don't disrespect her highness. Denise and Nightingale had already rushed out and blocked Isabella on her path. Denise's face was full of anger, while Nightingale was annoyed. She did not expect Isabella to attack Watson. She could not have rescued him in time, so she felt sorry for her own negligence. The two women were about to stop Isabella. Before they did, King Landhar III stretched his right hand outward. A black light flashed and turned into a giant arm with a strong gravitational force that stretched for several meters. He grabbed Isabella through the air. Isabella, I had wanted to kill you, but I let you go because of my kindness. I did not expect you not to appreciate it. Not only did you want to attack Watson, who helped me revive Avril, but you also wanted to kill Avril. I think you must have had enough of living. In that case, there's no need for Watson. I'll send you on your way myself. Chapter 498, Resurrecting 2 more. Your Majesty. Cough, cough. Isabella's face was filled with pain under the weight of the black hand formed by gravity and summoned by King Landhar III. She could not breathe properly as blood flowed down the corners of her mouth. Compared to the pain, her eyes were filled with sorrow. Isabella was once a maid in the palace. More than 10 years ago, when King Landhar III was still a prince and had a good relationship with Avril, she worked as a gardener in the palace. She was responsible for handling the flowers and plants every day. At that time, she saw King Landhar III bring Avril to the palace for a date many times a day. Avril was born in the Elven Kingdom and liked pansies. King Landhar III ordered someone to get a handful of pansy seeds secretly. He sprinkled them in the king's garden and cultivated a large flower bed of pansies as a gift for Avril. However, the garden's layout had been changed without permission, so the king punished all the staff that worked in the garden, and Isabella was no exception. However, she did not hate King Landhar III because of that. Instead, she was a little envious that Avril had such a sweetheart. As part of the palace staff, she could only see the palace guards, who never smiled. Who would not want to be in a romantic relationship as a young girl? After that, she paid more attention to King Landhar III and Avril. She heard that King Landhar III used magic to create fireworks on Avril's birthday, making a massive heart in the sky that caused a sensation in the city. She also heard that King Landhar III ran barefoot through every healer's residence in the capital because Avril was sick. He did not hesitate to spend a lot of money to bring all the healers back with him. The story between King Landhar III and Avril was the only happy thing she could enjoy in that prison-like palace. Unknowingly, she brought herself into the story. She imagined herself as the heroine and thought that all of that was her experience. However, she knew that it would remain an illusion in her life. She was only a maid, she would not get to enjoy such sweet romance. She did not know that the heavens would hear her plea and give her a chance. Not long after she fell in love with King Landhar III, a series of internal conflicts broke out in the capital. First, King Landhar II reported that the Demonist Church was an evil sect that had bewitched everyone's hearts. As a saintess, Avril was more than an evil demoness. So, King Landhar II sent troops to surround the Demonist Church. Then, it was rumored that King Landhar III was willing to kill 2 of his royal sisters for Avril and led an army to besiege the main hall. It was a heinous act that forced King Landhar II to abdicate his throne. When Isabella learned of that, she felt uneasy but also secretly happy. So, she made a difficult decision. When King Landhar III besieged the royal palace, she sent the guards to tell King Landhar III about the palace's layout. Perhaps with her help, King Landhar III's army quickly broke through the palace, and he became the new king. At that time, King Landhar III came to her. He told her that Avril had bewitched him to do such a thing. He had already begun to order the removal of the Demonist Church in the whole kingdom. At the same time, because of Isabella's actions, he had lost only a minimal amount of soldiers. He wanted to repay Isabella by letting her make a request. "Marry me and let me be the mother of your children. That is my request." That was Isabella's request. King Landhar III was bewitched by Avril, and he had fallen in love with an evil woman. How pitiful! Even though King Landhar III loved the wrong woman, the things he did for Avril were not fake. Isabella thought she would get the same experience, and she would become the happiest woman in the kingdom. After she made her request, King Landhar III hesitated for a long time but agreed to her request. The wedding was held, and she gave birth to his first child, Benson. The name meant father figure in the Holy Dragon Kingdom. Over the next 10 years, Isabella gave birth to 2 more princes and a princess. She felt like she was already the happiest person until she heard about the death of her 2 sons. However, King Landhar III did not care about that. He even said that he had never loved her. She felt like her world had collapsed. She fell in love because she envied another person's love story. In the end, all that was just her imagination. She had lived for love all her life. That love had disappeared, so she did not want to live anymore. Isabella closed her eyes and prepared to welcome her death as she thought about the past 10 years. However, the pain that she expected did not come. That made her subconsciously look up, and she saw a hand appear and grab King Landhar III's arm, stopping him from making any further movements. "Friar, this is not you. Don't you pity the woman who has been by your side for more than 10 years? Avril, Isabella became my wife after you died. I have no feelings for her, I only needed her to give me heirs. In my heart, there is only one queen in the kingdom. She has to die so that you can become my queen." Avril was the one who stopped King Landhar III. At that moment, King Landhar III's expression had darkened as he tried to comfort Avril. "If we really do love each other, does it matter if I am the queen? Friar, please stop. Otherwise, you'd better kill me. I'm already dead anyway." "Okay, I promise you." King Landhar III sighed and released his hand, letting Isabella fall to the ground. Avril walked toward Isabella and extended her hand to her. "Are you okay? Can you get up?" Isabella had a conflicted look in her eyes. She pushed Avril's hand away. "Go away. I don't need your pity." Avril was happy. Even though she had been dead for more than 10 years, there were still 2 men who missed her. They even asked Watson to cast the resurrection spell. In comparison, Isabella was much more miserable. No one cared about her son's death, not even the man she loved the most. He even wanted to kill her. "Isabella, right? It's not pity. I just think that you should not die so easily. The gods said that humans should learn to be humble and respectful, but I believe humans should learn to be brave. One should not back down. One should be brave to move forward. There is nothing in this life that makes us unable to move forward. That is the true essence of the Demonist Church that I founded. I hope that people can seek their own answers instead of seeking God's. At the same time, I hope that people can learn to control their own emotions and desires. Seeking death when encountering difficulties is an escape. You still have a son and a daughter waiting for you. You can't be responsible for them if you die, right? Avril's words made Isabella, who had been begging for death, waver. At that moment, Avril turned around and looked at Watson, who was not far behind her. "Watson, come here for a moment." "Me?" Watson had a strange expression on his face. After Avril nodded, he walked toward her. "Watson, it seems like you were the one who resurrected me. Since you have the ability to revive me, you must be able to resurrect Miss Isabella's sons. I hope that you can help me alleviate that lady's pain. The gods will definitely forgive your sins, and the people will praise your mercy." "I'll try." Watson nodded subconsciously. He realized that something was wrong. As a human that he had created, how could Avril instruct him to work for her instead? Furthermore, she was full of mercy and forgiveness. It felt like she was a fraud. However, her words were inexplicably provocative, and he almost agreed to it. Denise had told him that, as the saintess of the Demoness Church, Avril was very skilled at managing the church. Initially, he did not believe it, but he had changed her mind. Miss Avril, I can agree to your request, but it is not for free. After all, Queen Isabella just tried to assassinate me. I can help to resurrect her 2 sons. In return, you have to agree to one of my requests. You're such a brat. Helping others is a virtue, so you should not ask for anything in return. Your pettiness is just like my brother's. Are you my brother's child? Avril's face was full of affection. She looked at Sylvan. Sylvan's face reddened. Well, it is not wrong to say that he's my child. After all, our relationship is as good as a father and son. He would be proud to have Watson as his son. Unfortunately, he agreed with Watson, he did not want her sister to take advantage of him. Miss Avril, you've misunderstood. I'm only friends with Lord Sylvan. I have parents. Watson looked at Isabella and said, Queen Isabella, I can resurrect the 2 princes. In any case, resurrecting 2 more people is a piece of cake. But, like Miss Avril, you need to agree to one of my requests. Chapter 499, Moving Forward. What request? Isabella asked, her eyes shining. If Avril's words made her lose the thought of seeking death, then Watson's words ignited her hope. With Avril's resurrection, it was not impossible for Watson to resurrect her 2 sons. As long as she could get her 2 sons back, she had no other requests. Even if Watson wanted her life, she was willing to give it to him. My request is simple. After I resurrect your son, you must announce that all the princes will not fight me for the throne. Also, you must cancel the engagement between Princess Kiana and me. Finally, you must help dispel the rumors that Queen Avril was an evil person. I know you can do it. As long as you agree to my requests, I will resurrect your sons. What do you say? Watson, that is not a request. Those are 3 requests. Isabella's mouth twitched. When Watson was silent, she smiled. Very well, 3 requests. I agree with all of your conditions. Help me resurrect my son. Even though Watson had made 3 requests, none involved her life. She had attacked Watson. The young man was merciful. She could not miss that opportunity. As the queen, I won't go back on my words. Watson nodded and reached out to press the human chess piece on his chest. A burst of starlight flashed, and 2 naked figures appeared on the ground. They were the first prince and the second prince. After they were resurrected, they looked around, and their expressions were somewhat blank. Why am I here? Did I die? Did my father kill me? Father is here too. Did father use some methods to resurrect us after killing us? The first prince looked puzzled. The second prince glanced around, and his gaze fell on King Landhar III. Your father did not resurrect you. It was Watson who resurrected you. Isabella stood up from the ground and briefly explained what had happened, as well as her deal with Watson. From now on, you are no longer princes. The engagement between Kiana and Watson is also cancelled. In a moment, you will return to your respective palaces to pack your things. We will move out of the palace. The simplest way to fulfill Watson's request was to leave the palace and become an ordinary person. Even if Watson did not have those requests, she would still take the initiative to do so. After Avril was resurrected and revealed her innermost thoughts, they could no longer stay in the palace. Mother, what are you talking about? It's fine if Kiana doesn't want to marry Watson, but why do we have to move out? The second prince looked as if he could not accept it. He quickly walked toward King Landhar III with a pleading face. Father, all this is fake, right? Tell me that none of that is real. King Landhar III's face was cold. The second prince stopped, despair appeared in his eyes. "Let's go, second brother. There's no need for meaningless struggles." Prince Benson came to the second prince's side, patted his shoulder, and sighed. He understood his younger brother's unwillingness, and he was the same. However, would that have mattered? King Landhar III had killed them with his own hands, and that had chilled his heart. He finally knew that he was only a pawn, he had no right to become the future king at all. The first prince pulled the second prince toward Isabella, and he did that silently. The three of them began to walk away. King Landhar III seemed unable to bear it halfway. He said, "Isabella, I have a few manors in the royal city. You and the children can go there." Isabella's footsteps paused. Without turning her head, she said, "Your Majesty, you don't have to worry. The children and I will find another place to live. We will work hard. From now on, we are no longer part of the royal family, but we are also no longer pawns at the mercy of others. Watson, I will do what I promised you. Later, I will inform the civil and military ministers to send people to eliminate the rumors from more than 10 years ago. That will be the last order I will give as the Queen." Then, Isabella left without turning back. From that day onward, the kingdom had lost a queen but gained an additional sad person. Watson was silent for a moment before he turned his head to look at Avril, saying, "Queen Avril, Queen Isabella has already fulfilled her promise. Next, it's your turn. I request that you help me manage the church in the kingdom." "Manage the church? I'm very good at that. I've just been resurrected and have nothing to do. I wonder which gods the people believe in. What authority do those gods have?" Avril asked with a smile. "There's only one God in the kingdom now, and that God is me. As for my authority, it's only to let the people live happily and protected." Watson pointed at himself. His words made the smile on Avril's face stiffen, and then she revealed a look of disbelief. "What did you say? Does that kingdom believe in you now? A youth as the kingdom's god? Was that possible?" Watson seemed powerful, but he had not reached the level of a god. Once he became a god, Watson would be ostracized by that world and enter the divine realm. Why would they believe in a human that had not reached the divine realm? What happened to the kingdom after she died? While she was puzzled, she looked at the expressions of the people around her. They were all calm. It proved that what Watson said was true, making her even more puzzled. There were 7 gods in that kingdom in the past, but now, those 7 gods were abandoned by the kingdom because they were competing for the people's beliefs. Now, this kingdom's god is me. I can let Denise explain it to you properly. While Watson was speaking, Denise went to Avril and knelt on one knee. She looked excited. "Former guard, Denise, pays her respects to your Majesty. After all these years, I can finally meet your Majesty. I could not have done that without young Master Watson's help. He is really a very powerful person. I hope that your Majesty can help him. Denise, get up. It seems like you have not forgotten me after all these years. It must have been hard on you." Avril helped Denise up and gave her a tight hug. Even someone who rarely smiles praised Watson. "It seems like that young man is extraordinary, indeed. Even though I don't understand what it is like to be a god, I will agree to help him manage the church. Since Queen Avril agrees, then I shall take my leave for now." Watson wanted to give Avril and Denise the time to get reacquainted. He turned around, bowed, and walked out of the garden. Antonio, Reed, and Nightingale trailed behind him. At that moment, King Landhar III suddenly spoke. "Watson, wait a moment. You've helped me to resurrect Avril. You've helped me so much. I don't even know how to thank you. Watson, why don't you tell me your wish later? I will try my best to fulfill it. Perhaps you'd like to stay in the palace for a meal." "Your Majesty, I'm sorry. You can't give me what I want now." Watson refused without even turning his head. What he wanted was for the kingdom to be strong and prosperous. He wanted to create a better world and allow his family and friends to live freely. How could King Landhar III fulfill that wish? The problem with the church will be resolved after Queen Avril's revival. Soon, the kingdom's holy see will be unified, and they will have complete faith in me, and my strength will be increased. It's time for the next step of the plan: recruiting talents. The Winter Nation and the Elven Kingdom will soon start a war against the kingdom. Before that, I have to make the Holy Dragon Kingdom stronger so that I can occupy those two kingdoms while reducing consumption. He had never forgotten one thing: Antonio had someone he cared about in the Elven Kingdom. Just like how he had resurrected Avril, mainly for Sylvan, he also wanted to conquer the Elven Kingdom for Antonio. Chapter 500, He's horrible, but I like him. Nightingale, I have a mission for you. Watson secretly monitored King Landhar III's movements, especially the assassins around King Landhar III and Isabella and the others guarding the royal city. If necessary, he would give them some help. Not long after leaving the royal city, Watson gave Nightingale a mission. I've just fused the King of Zombies. Even though it's platinum tier, it can kill people, poison, and grant immortality. It's very suitable to be your helper. As for the glass coffin that sealed the sky, I'll give it to you. That coffin has the ability to seal enemies. If you encounter an enemy you can't defeat, just seal it. Watson had given the King of Zombies and the glass coffin he had fused to Nightingale. However, Nightingale complained, "Watson, why are you giving me a zombie in a coffin?" "I'm sorry, Nightingale. I'm just thinking about your safety. If you don't like it, I won't give it to you." Watson scratched his head awkwardly. A coffin might not have been a good gift. Before he returned the coffin, Nightingale's lips curled upward. "Forget it. Since you're apologizing so sincerely, I'll let it go. I'll accept those two gifts." She liked all the gifts Watson gave her, and he also arranged a job for her. She had been in the royal city for so long that she felt so bored. She could finally show off her skills. "Master Antonio, Master Reed, you can go home first. I will take Nightingale to visit the Severed Fingers Gang's headquarters. I want to introduce some people to her. She will need to cooperate with them to monitor King Landhar III. Watson, when did you take over the Severed Fingers Gang? We don't even know about it." "Severed Fingers Gang? That's the infamous underground force in the kingdom. Watson, you're too capable. You've mastered the mysterious chess piece, and you've even taken over an underground force. Your master and I have been worried about how you would defeat King Landhar III. We won't go back. We also haven't been to the Severed Fingers Gang's headquarters. Plus, you haven't fused our weapons. That matter remains unsolved." Reed and Antonio objected to Watson's plan. Their voices were loud and reasonable, leaving Watson momentarily at a loss for words. "Very well, let's go together." Meanwhile, at the palace. "Third brother, stop pacing. You're annoying me." Kiana sat on the floor near the palace entrance. She rested her chin on her hands and looked at her brother as she spoke impatiently. "Kiana, there was a rumor in the palace just now. They said that Watson had brought many people here to resurrect the late Queen Avril. Do you think that will affect us? I heard that Queen Avril was once father's beloved. Plus, our two brothers died for no reason at all. Is there a conspiracy against us? If that's the case, then we have to be careful in the future. Who knows if assassins are trying to kill us," the third prince said worriedly. "Third brother, you're worrying too much. Why would anyone dare to murder a member of the royal family? Unless they don't want to live anymore. Even if that happens, I'm not afraid because Brother Watson will protect me." Kiana smiled. Her eyes flashed with fiery light as if she was missing Watson. The third prince shook his head. Just as he was about to say something, the door was pushed open with a bang. Isabella walked into the hall. Her two sons trailed behind her. They carried their luggage in their hands and wore simple clothes. Mother, why are you here? Eldest brother. Second brother. I thought you died. Am I dreaming? The third prince was in disbelief when he saw his brothers. He rubbed his eyes. Kiana also looked surprised as she stood up. The first prince and the second prince were surprised. They stammered with their answer. Third brother, you should ask mother about that later. The most important thing now is that you and Kiana pack up quickly. We are about to leave the palace. Leave the palace? Why? Because your father has Avril now. I will no longer be the queen, Isabella said expressionlessly. The third prince's face was pale. He had a bad feeling in his heart, and it was confirmed. Kiana felt horrible too. She reached out to console her brother. Don't worry, third brother. Even if we leave the palace, we will still be royalty. We'll just live in another place. Furthermore, I couldn't leave the palace as often as I wanted to, and now I am finally free to visit Brother Watson whenever I wanted. Kiana, I have another bad news for you. Isabel sighed. We're no longer part of the royal family. King Landhar III will strip us off our status and make Avril his new queen. Isabella sighed. She seemed unable to bear it, but she still continued to say, firstly, we are no longer members of the royal family. It won't be long before King Landhar III announces that he will strip us of our royal status and make Avril his new queen. Secondly, you can't go to Watson anymore because he is no longer your fiancé. He asked me to cancel the engagement between you two. He said so himself. What? Kiana's expression stiffened. In the end, she stood there like a statue. Impossible. Why would Brother Watson say such a thing? He promised to help me alleviate my masochistic tendencies, but he's cancelling our engagement. Does he not like me? She clutched her heart. Kaya's face was filled with grief, and tears welled in the corners of her eyes. Sister, don't worry. I'll go and speak with Watson right now. Let's see how he dares to make such a decision. Compared to being removed from the royal family, he was more worried about his sister's happiness. The first prince and the second prince also tried to comfort her. Kiana, don't worry. Watson only broke off the engagement, he didn't say that he didn't like you. You still have a chance. Yes, sister. You're cute and have received a good education since you were young. As long as you're willing to pursue Watson, there's still a chance for him to change his mind. Plus, his words are clearly better than his father's. If you can become his lover, perhaps we can return to the royal family. As everyone comforted her, Kiana sobbed, and her expression became even sadder. Even if I was the princess, Watson didn't care about me. Now that I'm nothing, why would he like me? How dare he treat me like this? He has abandoned me. He's horrible, but I really like him. Kiana continued to cry. Her face was flushed red, and her eyes sparkled like little stars. That person was hopeless. The rest of her family shook their heads, they were speechless. It seemed like Kiana liked Watson even more. Masochism could really cause a lot of harm.